This is Michael Gano with Insight to Israel, and it is now, what time is it here?
10:30.
10:30 p.m. here in Belgrade, Serbia. And as I always start out every video, it was another beautiful day in the Jewish state. And I'll tell you why it was another beautiful day in the Jewish state, because there are 2 million Jews in the state of Israel right now fighting for their freedom that have not submitted to government tyranny. But I'm going to lend the voice to our series of videos that we've done in the past called Jews in Exile. And these are Jews that felt as though that felt the strong arm of tyranny from their government and from the people in Israel that submitted to government demands to take the injection, which Israel is on number 5 right now. On number 5. And although the appearance of relaxation is happening right now all around us, folks, it's culminating back to more government control. They're already telling us this fall that things are going to start to get difficult. This time, folks, the first round was a test round. The first 2 years was just a test to find out people's submission levels. And many people submitted, but there's always that remnant. There's always those who their freedom means more to them than a piece of land, than an appearance of patriotism, and to a government or to a sect of people. There are those whose freedom they understand comes only from God, and no culture, no government, no amount of control can remove that from them except God. And this is amazing. So I'm going to introduce Moti here. He's an Israeli. And I actually met Moti's wife in the airport recently. And we struck up a conversation because I found out she's Israeli. And she told me that her and her husband and their daughter, now I'm not going to show Moti's face to protect his identity. He wanted to come on camera, but I won't do it. People need to be able to speak freely without fear. And he doesn't have fear, but I want to protect the people and but still allow their voice to be heard. But I met his wife and she told me their story, and I was like, wow, I started with his wife. You're an amazing, strong woman, which shows me, and most of the time, because many times you have strong women, but they're not, there's a difference between a strong woman and a domineering woman. When you have a domineering woman, you usually have a weak man. But I knew this woman was strong, and I knew her husband was the same. I said, I got to meet your husband, because their story is so amazing. And I've sat for about an hour and a half and talked to Moti. And I'm just like, it's exciting to me. Folks, listen, first of all, I want to say this. You need to support Insight to Israel. Go to our GoFundMe page. We need your support, because we are the only media outlet that's bringing you from the grassroots level the truth, the voices of those who have been drowned out by the mainstream, by the culture, I apologize that I can't find the right word, but by society. They're the voices of the few and of the strong. And just sitting and talking to Moti was such an inspiration to me. I took a picture with him and sent it to a friend of mine. I said, this is my new hero. Moti is my hero. He doesn't see himself that way, but we're very similar in our mentality, in our spirit, in our attitude. And I want to say, Moti, thank you for being on Insight to Israel.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
Moti, you were born and raised in Israel.
Yeah, that's true.
And you and your wife and your child, you're here in Serbia.
Mm-hmm.
And, you've been through a lot in the past 2 years.
Yes.
Tell us where it all began, how it all started.
Well, it all started, actually for me, everything started in 2006. I was drafted to the Second Lebanese War as a reserve corps, army reserve soldier, and somewhere along that war, I will not get into it, but somewhere along that war, I realized that things are not as we see them, and that actually my government and my country is acting against me and other and the other residents and citizens of Israel, and I started learning about that more and more and digging, and then COVID hit in 2020, and we went through the first lockdown. I have to admit, at first I was thinking, okay, there's something is going on that the world has never seen before, and okay, maybe some things seem a little harsh, but maybe that's, I don't know.
Maybe there's something to this.
Maybe there's something to this, but after I don't know, 2 months, things were just not adding up, and dots started to connect, from everything I learned in the past, and before the first lockdown was over, and then the government declared the second one, and it was September 2020, and I told my wife, I said, okay, we're not going to stay here for this lockdown.
Your wife actually had mentioned to me that they wanted to give your daughter a PCR test. I don't know but she had mentioned something of the fact that I'm sure there's a culmination of things like you just said.
It started even before that. It started at some point when COVID just started. We pulled our daughter from the kindergarten.
Smart, wow.
Because I said they were starting to do like a daily declaration that the kids we measured their temperature, and I said, listen, this is bullshit. What are you doing?
Family channel.
Oh, but
right.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I get it.
What are you teaching the kids?
Yeah.
Everybody knows this is. I don't want my child to go through this. You will tell her that she's dangerous to other people just because
to grandma and grandpa.
Yeah, and other kids. She needs to prove that she's. I'm not gonna do that. So we pulled her out, and we said we'll homeschool her. And she stayed. She was homeschooled until now. She's homeschooled till now.
Wow.
Next year she'll start going to school for the first time in her life. But, so there, a lot of things was going on, and at some point I said, no more. I'm not gonna cooperate with that, and we need to get out of here.
Well, how did your wife react to that?
Well, I think I was talking about leaving Israel before that.
Right.
Even before COVID, and but she didn't want to. She said, "This is my home. My family is here. I don't want to go." And I said, "Okay, I understand this." And I think once the whole thing started, I don't know if she realized that I'm right or she saw what I'm going through.
Right.
Because I was so upset and mad with my country, the country I grew up in, I fought for. I was a patriot, really. So I spent 20 years in the military, and 2 years of regular service, and almost 20 years in the Army Reserve Corps, and I never doubted anything. For me it was like a slap in the face, and I said, okay, we're not gonna go with it. We are not gonna cooperate with this. And actually, for me, the biggest, disappointment was not with the government, but with the people.
Right.
Because at some point, it was clear that we are being manipulated. Clear for me, that we are being manipulated, and the data they're showing us is far from true, and nothing made sense, and people still obeyed and gave up to this tyranny and were afraid. And I said, okay, I would fight for this, but I'm not gonna fight it alone,
Right.
And I said, okay, let's just buy a ticket. Let's get out of here. We bought a ticket to Bulgaria, We flew to Bulgaria. We had a.
And when was that? What?
That was September 18th. That was the date we flew out.
2020?
September 18th, 2020.
2020.
Yeah. And we had a ticket back. We had the round trip for 30 days. And after 30 days, the airline said they canceled the flight back, and they said you can either delay or whatever. And I said, okay, this is an opportunity, so we decided to stay another month. And after
so let me ask you real quick. How, at that time, how were things in Bulgaria compared to Israel?
Bulgaria nothing was happening, no lockdowns, no, people were, no mask mandates. Well, there was a mask mandate in indoor places, but a lot of people were not complying with this. And the Bulgarian people seemed like freedom means a lot to them. And I think they do. This is a country that was under occupation for 600 years. You know, they know something about freedom. And and we spent a nice time there, and the difference, it was a shocking difference between the mindset of people in Israel and what the government of Israel was doing, and Bulgaria. At some point, Bulgaria started changing. I guess a lot of influence on the Bulgarian government.
Yeah, and the Israeli government has a lot of influence.
Yeah,
over a lot of these governments.
Israeli, European Union.
Yeah,
Also, after 6 months, we left Bulgaria. We were on our way to Zagreb, Croatia, and in some, twist of fate, we landed in Belgrade, Serbia.
Wow.
Yeah,
you told me the details. Fascinating.
Yeah. We never meant to come here, but with all the things around COVID and airports closing and whatever, somehow we got to Belgrade. We never meant to come here, and we came here, and we met Serbian people, and for me it felt like home, or what might be a good place for us, and we've been here since.
But along the way, though, you had told me you met people even from other countries that were coming to the region.
We met people from Spain who came to Bulgaria, left Spain for the same reasons.
Wow.
Of this tyranny, and came to Bulgaria. We met them there, and we met here in Serbia a lot of people who left other countries and came to Serbia. Serbia. Many people don't know that because the media don't tell that.
Right.
But Serbia had no lockdowns.
Wow.
Since July 20. Well, they went to first lockdown when we all saw the pictures from China of people dropping dead in the streets. All this, all these Hollywood stunts, and people were just and the people when the government of Serbia declared their second lockdown, people just stood up and said no.
You said thousands of people.
Thousands of people.
Went to the capital here.
Yeah. Thousands of people. They put a siege on the government building.
Wow.
On the parliament.
Hold on
building.
1 second. These people here literally went to the government building and overthrew the government building.
Yeah. For 7 days and 7 nights.
Wow.
Estimates talking between 5,000 and 20,000 people. Of course, everybody who has something against the government jumped in. But eventually, after 7 days and 7 nights of riots and clashes with the police and people getting arrested and fast trials, and the government canceled all the restrictions.
The government canceled the restrictions because of the power of the people.
Most people in the world don't know that.
Yeah.
But Serbia had no lockdowns since. The borders were open for the whole time, and only mask mandates in indoor places. And also most people just didn't follow. And when they started vaccinating. People about half of the people of Serbia took the first shots.
Yeah.
People here don't trust
the government.
No.
Now you had said that you talked to people that took the vaccine. And why they took it? Why did they?
At the beginning, when they just started rolling out the vaccination in Serbia, and people were hesitant, they told them, "Listen, look what's going on in Israel. Everybody's in Israel are vaccinated. It's okay. It's safe. Israelis know what they're doing," and people took the shots for that. I met people here and said, "How come you took that shot? And they said, "What do you mean? We saw what's happening in Israel." And
folks, let me say this. I'm telling you, there's 2 million Jews fighting for their freedom that didn't submit whatsoever to the government tyranny. And this is what I've been warning about, and we talked about this.
Yes.
Albert Bourla used his Jewish background in the Holocaust to convince Jews not, and with the government and all the money spent, millions of dollars, while Holocaust survivors in Israel starve, and spent millions of dollars on a propaganda campaign. Then they went to other countries, other governments. Hungary, Orban refused to sign a contract with Pfizer. The Israeli government made a special trip. Google it in. We've already done videos on this. Went and talked to Orban. The Israeli government went and talked to Orban, and then they signed a contract with Pfizer. Folks, I'm telling you, listen, Jews are fighting for their freedom again. This time the tyranny against the Jews, they don't speak German.
Yeah, they speak Hebrew.
The lie is Hamas. The lie is Hezbollah. The lie is Iran. Okay, Israel's already sold out. The government's already sold Israel out to the communist Chinese and to all the Muslim countries that are buying up the high tech. They're coming in. They run all the ports. Folks, you've got to wake up and see that the biggest threat to the Jewish people, especially the 2 million that refuse to submit, is their own government. This is what Insight to Israel's been warning about. We've done the interviews on the ground, and now we've done the interviews with people in other countries that have said, yeah, we took it because look at what happens. It's happening in Israel, and Jews are dying in Israel. Jews are dying in Israel. They have defibrillators on the streets. We're going to talk about that another time. But you've made some great contacts here.
Yes.
Really. In fact, let me say this. Tell me the story. Tell our listeners the story about the Christians you met on Pesach.
Yeah, in Austria.
In Austria.
In a little town called Pernitz. I went to Austria to meet my sister and kids. They were traveling there, and I spent a night near Vienna, which was horrible. And Austrians were crazy about the masks and stuff. And then I got to this guest house in this little town, and I met a couple Christians that just refused to follow everything that is happening for a very simple reason. They said, this is not God's will.
Wow.
You know, it was very simple to them. They are very believing people, you know. They're strict Christians, and the guy said that this is not God's will.
Wow.
This is not the way God's want us to act.
Wow.
And we spent 2 hours talking, you know, sitting, drinking coffee and talking, and it was amazing to meet other people, especially in somewhere like Austria, because that night I spent near Vienna, in a hotel near Vienna. It was crazy, you know. They were so strict about mask mandates, and I wouldn't do it. I refused, and I had clashes all the time.
Wow, you're amazing.
24 hours of clashing with people, and you know, I don't want to fight with everybody. I said, okay, you don't want me to in your store without a mask. I will not go in your store, but I will not put a mask. And they were, you know, they were telling me. I went to eat breakfast at a hotel, you know, and they said, you need to put a mask. I said, but when I sit and eat, I cannot put a mask. I said, no, but when you stand up, you need a mask. When you sit down, you don't need a mask. I said, listen to yourself, you know. And this guy, listen, this is the rule, this is the law. And I told him, you know, as a Jewish person, we are sending Israeli schools send students to Poland every year to learn about the Holocaust. They should not send them to Poland. They should send them here in Austria. Because I always wondered how the Nazis killed 19 million people and nobody said anything. Now I know.
Wow.
You know,
wow.
I see this. I see what you're doing. And now I know. So it was amazing in a country like Austria, meeting these people. They said, no, we will not do it. And I told you, I went to this cafe and I met Um, I met some people, and suddenly inside Austria, where everybody is
In a small town. You were in
yeah
one
in
of
a
the small
in
villages.
a small villages, yeah, and they were all maskless, and I said, okay, you need to explain it to me how 15 minutes ago or 1 hour ago in Vienna someone almost shot me because they were willing to shoot me if I would go into the store without a mask, and here everybody's mask. They said, we understand what's going on, we get it, we complied at first, we will not do it anymore. We don't care. Nobody can intimidate us, and nobody is in this town is using masks. It was amazing to see people standing up, and when enough people are standing up for themselves, and so you see it in Serbia, 5,000, 20,000 people in a land of 7 million people. That's all you need.
Right.
You know?
Because I remember you said something very interesting in the restaurant in the hotel in Vienna. You said they said it's the law, and you said, well, how many government?
Oh, they said it's not us, it's the government. And I said, no, I don't see the government here. Where's the government? Show me. Where's the government? Where's the government official who forces you to do that? I said, no, the government tells us to do that. I said, okay, but it's the government. You can say no. How
Right.
many people in the Austrian government?
Right.
20, 40, 50, 200. I don't know how many people in Austria. 10 million. You can say no.
Wow.
But it's amazing for me. It's overwhelming how humanity gave up.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's crazy. But as I travel, I've traveled a lot around, mostly around the Balkans, but also around Europe in the last 2 years. And everywhere I go, I meet people who wouldn't take it.
They're not going to give up their freedom.
No, they're not going to give up their freedom. And I told you I was talking to my friend in Israel, and he said, aren't you afraid for your life, going against I said, I'm afraid for my freedom more than I'm afraid for my life.
Wow.
Because living, I was born a free man, and this freedom was not given to me by a government, or this freedom was given to me because I was born. It's given by God.
Amen.
And I'm not going to give up that freedom.
Wow.
You'll have to take my life before I give up this freedom.
You had mentioned that because you haven't been back in Israel for 2 years.
Yeah.
And your wife goes back and visits. And you had mentioned one of your family members said, when are you coming home? Tell us about that.
Yeah, my uncle said, it's time that you will come home, even for a visit, but come home. And I said, this is not my home anymore. And he said, no, it is you. It will always be your home. I said, yeah, but it's like, it's an abusive home. It's like you will ask a woman that was beaten up by her husband to go back home after she left.
Right. Wow.
That's how I feel about Israel. And for me, and again, I started realizing it even before COVID, but in the last 2 years, it just came very, very clear that the Israeli government and the state of Israel, just a specific government, the state of Israel is my enemy.
Right.
And it's the enemy of everybody who lives in Israel. Most people just don't realize that.
Right.
And all those wars and clashes with Hamas, and this is all colluded.
It's all a distraction.
It's a distraction. And both sides have political gain from it. And everybody who doesn't see it, I don't know, is either blind and wouldn't look. But this is...
Yeah, because you had, it's very interesting because you, like myself, and I'm not even Jewish, and anyone that's followed us here on Insight to Israel, I've been on every base in that country. I was so blind, and Jews in Israel tried to tell me, they would drop things in my ear. Michael, you have to look a little deeper at what's happening here. This is not something that's normal. And I didn't have a reason to look. And then when Corona did, and you know what woke me up? I ratted out my neighbors because they had too many people in the apartment and across the street. And I said, they're the reason why this continues.
Yeah.
And
this is not happening because of...
I went and confessed to him. When I saw the police go in, I said, what did I do? What did I do to these people? And I went and told them, I said, I apologize. They were like, you called the police? I said, yes, and I'm sorry. I was wrong for what I did. I ratted you out. And, you know, it's very interesting hearing what you're saying, because right now there's this big celebration of bringing Jews back to Israel. But what are you bringing them back to? You bringing them back to God's land? No, you're not. Homosexual capital of the world. 10,000 marched through the streets of Jerusalem. And yet Jews find it necessary to boycott Ben and Jerry's ice cream? It's a mental insanity.
Yeah, it's a distraction, and we get distracted really easily for years. We live in a matrix. We don't see reality.
What do you say right now? There are many Jews that are in exile like yourself, that are thinking that because they're hearing in the media. Do you actually believe? Because we talked about this, about how the actions of the government and the compliance of the society is actually causing anti-Semitism as the government goes and tells.
Well, the world will blame the Jewish people for that.
Yeah, they're not going to blame Pfizer or Moderna.
Once this thing will blow, and it will blow. Eventually, it can take a year, 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, I don't know. But at some point, people will realize what happened here, you know, and how many people died from those mandates and injections. And we're already seeing it. They make all these excuses about climate change and whatever, you know. In Israel, highest death rates ever.
Yeah.
So it's already happening, and it will just get worse. So at some point, the majority of people will understand. And you see in Israel, you see 6 million people took the first shot, and less than 1 million took the fourth. So people realizing something is wrong here, even if they are not standing up against it, but they understand.
Right.
They just started vaccinating babies in Israel, 6 months and older.
Oh my goodness, it's crazy.
400 babies got vaccinated out of almost 400,000 that are needs to be vaccinated. So people don't comply with that. They understand something
It's
is
sad
wrong.
that it's so late though, when people like you warned them. That's what's sad. And many Jews were treated so terribly. I witnessed it myself.
Yeah, of course.
There's videos all over where Jews that wouldn't comply were treated so terribly by their own people.
Yeah.
And
I was sitting with my family, you know, and I love my family. We're on good terms even now. But and I was telling them, "You're crazy that you're going to take that." They said, "No, you're a conspiracy theorist." I said, "I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm a conspiracy pragmatist. You know, I understand my government is conspirating against me."
Yeah. Wow.
So I don't need to understand why. I don't need to understand the theory behind that. You know, I know that my government is trying to hurt me, and I'm standing up. I'm not complying with that.
What do you? Because right now there are many Jews in exile, and they're very tired. Some of them I know that have traveled, and they can't find a place of rest. And some of them that I've talked to are considering going back to Israel. What would you say to them?
Well, I believe in freedom, so everybody needs to do whatever they feel. I think the worst place for Jewish people to be right now is Israel.
I agree. It's very sad.
It's very sad, but this is reality.
And we've got reports coming out of Israel every single day, folks. Israel's now the most expensive country in the world. Make Aliyah out of what? You know, all the things that are happening there. And now, in September, the World Economic Forum is going to meet in Israel with the Israeli government, with the Ministry of Health. I'm sure someone's going to get some award because Israel helped defeat COVID.
Yeah.
You know.
But you know, everybody now look at what's happening in the world. Look at the U.S., the mighty U.S.
Yeah.
You know. So we're waiting to see what's happening in Israel with the vaccination of the soldiers, and we'll decide what's happening in the U.S. And everybody said, okay, Albert Bourla declared that Israel is the
test case.
Yeah, the laboratory of the world. You know. the Jewish people will be blamed for that.
And what shocks me is that,
when these things blow up,
yeah,
the Jewish people will be blamed.
yeah, that's what's scary.
You know, we all trusted you. How come you didn't tell us?
Wow. Listen, so you obviously, you know, you're homeschooling your child, and you feel people here have really accepted you as an Israeli Jew.
Yeah, Serbians are amazing people, and we never knew it until we came here, but Serbian people has some very special connection with Israelis and Jewish people. They look up to us, and we feel loved here.
Wow.
You know? And,
wow.
Yeah, and I remember I was invited to speak at a conference here. It was a 2-day conference, and I was speaking on the second day, and I didn't know exactly the time. I asked, and the guy said, "Yeah, I will tell." I said, "Never mind, I'll come from the morning because I want to meet people." And when I came that morning, I saw that I'm on the keynote speaker slot. And I asked the guy who was organizing the conference, I said, "Listen, I'm flattered, but you never heard me speaking." Because he never heard me speaking before.
They made you a keynote speaker, wow.
Yeah, without hearing me. So he knew well, we talked, and he knew I know my stuff, you know? But he never saw me on stage. And he put me on the keynote speaker, and I said, "Why?" He said, "Because you're from Israel, so people will come to listen to you."
Wow. Wow.
That was amazing. It was a shock for me, you know?
Listen, I want to say this, and you're, Moti, look, I really enjoyed our time sitting and talking, and I feel, listen, the minute I met your wife, I said, "I got to meet your husband." I got to meet your husband, and I sent him a message. I said, "Listen, man, I don't know you, but I know enough that I have all respect and love for you." And
Thank you.
Listen, folks, let me say this. God's hand is upon the remnant of the Jewish people that are fighting for freedom. I'm telling you, I've said it for 2 years. And if you are in Israel and you did not take this, do not give in. They're coming for more. And we're praying for you. We stand with you. And we're praying for the Jews in exile. Because this is not, in God's land, this is not going to go undone. This will not go undone. God will not tolerate what's happening, what the government's doing, and the compliance with what the government's doing. But again, listen, I'm telling you, we need to pray for Moti and pray for his family, that God will continue to bless them, and the Jews that are fighting for freedom in Israel. And listen, I hope these guys that are taking my videos and chopping them up, let them chop them up. Listen, we're giving you the voice of Israelis that believe in freedom and understand it's God-given and not government-determined. Wow, that's good stuff.
That's good stuff.
God-given, not government-determined. Wow. Moti, anything you'd like to encourage our listeners, our viewers with?
Well, just stand for what you believe in, you know. We know, I believe everybody knows deep inside we are being manipulated. People know this is not right, and still they are afraid. They will not leave their comfort zone. They're afraid to lose whatever it is they have, so they don't stand up and speak and say no. All you need to do is say no. And I met so many people around the world, groups of people and individuals who just said no, and nothing happened. You know?
Wow.
Just say no. So in the beginning it's frightening, and just say no, because if you give up, this is the whole thing that's going on in the world in the last 2 years. It's extortion. It's many different kinds of extortion. And if you give up to extortion, you will only get more extortion. It will not end.
Right. Wow.
So just stand up for what you believe in, for what you believe in, for what you know, and just don't give up your birth rights, you know?
Wow.
And your God-given rights. Stand for your own, speak, say no when you think the government or whoever is asking you to do something that is not right. and that's how we win this thing.
And
I heard a guy here, and he's American living here in Serbia. He calls it World War III,
right.
and I agree. You know, so this is how we win World War III, just by saying no.
And we listen. Let me add to that, and I know you believe this, folks. We need God's help. God is using this moment to push us to Him, to know Him. Listen, this stuff's laid out in the Bible already. Okay? Moti, I want to say thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I wish I could show you his face, man. He's a great guy. He's a great guy. His wife is, listen, I'm telling you, for a woman, what a wife. What a godsend. And I know it's got to be hard. It's hard on women to make that change, that transition. And you guys were stuck in an airport.
Yeah, for 2 days.
For 2 days, stuck in the airport.
In the terminal. Couldn't leave
In the
terminal.
terminal, they couldn't leave. And I listen. I was a husband before. You know, women need a sense of security and belonging and structure and all those things. And I get that, man. That's the way God made you. But for your wife, I really applaud you and your wife and your relationship. I know it's not been easy. We don't need to know. I'm sure there was like struggles and turmoils and fights.
Well,
and
struggle is a part of life.
That's it. That's it, brother. That's it. Wow. Moti, thank you, bro, for being on Insight to Israel. Folks, listen, I'm telling you, you know why I love my job? Because Insight to Israel, listen, we're not under the radar, but we're able to get in places and meet people. You can't imagine the people I met just since last night. I met a Canadian couple who are Serbian. They came back here to Serbia, and the stories they told me, I was just like, you people are amazing. People that will not submit. And you know, a lot of people are asking me, listen, I'm not a religious man, but I'm smart enough to know that God's not surprised by any of this. He's not surprised. He neither slumbers nor does he sleep. But He's calling. Listen, don't trust in the arm of government and man and doctors and all these things. You know, it's funny to hear Moti, and there are many religious Jews that haven't submitted, that they understand. But I do know many religious Jews who took the injection. They said, but Michael, I've said at their Shabbat tables, Michael, God gave us Corona, God gave us the vaccine. I'm like, are you people stupid? And I do know there are many religious Jews, Orthodox Jews, that stand strong, that didn't take it. We've interviewed them. But the sad part is, the sick part is that many Christian leaders in the U.S. took this. You know, Franklin Graham said, Jesus would have taken the vaccine. Are you crazy? This is a man that's satanic. He is satanic. Okay? Who's this other? Amir Sephardi. Satanic. They will never speak against the government of Israel that is doing this to their own people. Anyway, exciting stuff. I'm very proud. We got more coming, folks. We got more coming. Support Insight to Israel. This is my time. I'm telling you, you need to go to GoFundMe and support us. Keep this message going. Because we just caught a plane. We flew back into Serbia. Who knows where we'll be next, but we are bringing you the grassroots message of prayers of encouragement of those whose voices are drowned out by the wickedness of the day. But we will not let those voices go unspoken. This is Michael Gano with Insight to Israel. God bless you guys. I love you. I love every one of you. I'm trying to message you, all those who send me messages. We're trying to get them back to you. We do. We eventually get to you. So forgive me if you haven't gotten one yet. You will. Go to GoFundMe. $25 free speech campaign. $25. $25. That's it. We don't need a lot. We're living off of t-shirts and shorts. I'm still out of one backpack from a month ago. But you know what? In my apartment right now, taking over my apartment until we can solve this problem with Romania, I got another Jew in exile that's in my apartment right now in Bucharest. And thank God I can give him that place of rest. Man, you see, God works it all out. It works all out for the good, for victory. over wickedness. This is Michael Gano with Insight to Israel. God bless. Share the video. Go to GoFundMe. Have a great evening.